If your child stole your life savings, would you forgive them? My name is Frank Dalton, 62 years old, lives in Missouri. The ATM flashed insufficient funds. After 42 years, balance $0. The name on the withdrawal? My daughter. If that hurts, the kind of quiet that happens right before a storm rips the roof clean off your life. Don't scroll. Subscribe and comment here.
I'd slipped my debit card into that First Prairie Bank ATM in Liberty, Missouri, more times than I could count. My fingers knew the 4-digit PIN like they knew the grooves on my old steering wheel. That morning in April, the screen blinked. Thought for a beat, and then it hit me with 2 words that didn't feel real. Insufficient funds. I tried again. Same result. My hand hovered on the keypad, stiff like it belonged to somebody else. A woman behind me jiggled her keys, impatient, normal, living her normal day. I switched cards, my savings card. Same PIN, same blinding blue screen, same impossible words. Insufficient funds. A hot, hollow feeling spread through my chest. I'd checked last week, $12,906 in savings. My nest egg from 42 years at the Ford plant in Claycomo, building F-150s, breathing metal and sweat, stacking overtime like bricks. Every lunch I skipped, every holiday shift, all that careful dollars tucked away for the slow lane of retirement. I hit print receipt. The slip didn't lie. Balance 000. Last transaction, 9:12 a.m. Full balance withdrawal. I walked into the bank on legs that didn't want to hold me. Everything smelled like old carpet and coffee, and for a second I could have been anywhere in America where folks still trust uniforms and windows and teller smiles.
"Morning, Mr. Dalton," said Marnie, behind the counter. She knew me. Every deposit, every birthday check I dropped off for my grandson. "How can I help?" "Something's wrong," I said. My voice sounded smaller than I felt. "Both accounts are empty." Her fingers tapped. Her face softened, then shifted the way faces do when truth starts hurting. "Let me pull up your history." Tap, tap, pause. "There was a withdrawal at 9:12 a.m., she said. "Full balance, both checking and savings." "That's not possible. I wasn't here." Marnie angled the monitor. "It shows authorization by a joint account holder." She swallowed. "Lila Raines." My daughter's name hit like a tire iron to the ribs. "No," I whispered. "She wouldn't." "She had the paperwork?" "She had my signature from 3 years back, the year Lila divorced, and said she needed help just in case. Just in case turned into everything." I walked out into a pretty April day that felt like a taunt. My Ford idled in the lot, the one thing I could count on to act its age and keep going. I slid behind the wheel, pulled out my phone, and scrolled to Lila. The first call rang to voicemail, her voice cheerful like an ad. The second, too. On the third, she picked up without saying hello. "I already know why you're calling," she said. The ground under me tilted. "Lila?" I said. "Tell me this isn't real." She sighed, some cold wind at 70 miles an hour on the other end. "It's real, Dad." And like that, 42 years of careful living started collapsing around me, piece by piece. If that line, "It's real, Dad," hit you in the gut, don't scroll past. Subscribe and stay with me. Someone out there needs this revenge story to remind them they're not crazy for wanting justice. Like this if your heart's racing too. Let's walk through this heartbreak together. My daughter didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She just said, "I took it," like she was telling me the weather. I parked behind my hardware store and pressed the phone against my ear hard enough to hurt. "Lila, what happened? That was my retirement." "You always figure things out," she said. "You're good at that. Don't do this. We can talk. We can plan." Plan? Dad, I'm done planning a small life. The hum of highway rushed behind her words. I pictured mile markers blurring, fast food wrappers on the floorboard, the kind of future people run to when they're sure karma won't catch up. Where are you? Are you safe? I'm fine. A pause. Dax and I are starting fresh. We're leaving all this behind. Dax. The man with the bar-fight eyes and the too smooth smile. My stomach turned. Did you really drain everything? I asked. Every penny I saved for 42 years? She laughed a little, a sound that didn't belong to the girl I taught to ride a bike. It was just sitting there. You weren't using it. It was my emergency fund, my security. What about me, Lila? You raised me to survive. Like it was a compliment, like it excused theft. And Noah? My throat tightened on my grandson's name. Does he know? Is he with you? Silence rode shotgun for 3 long seconds. Noah will be fine, she said. Evasive, practiced. He's always fine with you. Then she gave me the line she had rehearsed. I deserve this chance to finally have a life. By stealing mine? You wouldn't understand. The air dropped 20 degrees. Please don't try to find us. Us, I repeated. Lila? The call clicked off. My next call went straight to voicemail. On the 4th try, the number said, not in service. Blocked. I sat with my forehead on the steering wheel and pictured my bank slip. $0. I pictured my kitchen table where Noah and I had left the chess game mid-in-game last night. My house had always been a harbor. Now it was a vault without a door. I drove without really choosing the direction, past Liberty Square, past the barbershop that still only takes cash, into the county park where we used to bring braid for ducks and not worry about gluten or cholesterol. Sunlight glinted on the pond like someone else's blessing. I sat on our old bench and let the memory reel flicker. Leela in pigtails holding my hand. Leela in the blue cap, valedictorian words catching in her throat when she thanked the man who believes in showing up. Leela in white lace dancing with me under paper lanterns, whispering thanks for always being there. Always being there had become a habit so heavy I forgot to set it down. My phone stayed dark. No apology, no kindness, just that cold sentence knocking around my head. It's real, Dad. I watched ducks wobble onto the shore, their lives impossibly simple. And I thought about the monster we build one excuse at a time. I didn't recognize the voice on the phone, but I knew the girl I trained to think love equals rescue. Back at home, the house sat exactly where I left it, but it didn't feel like mine. It felt like a museum of before. On the wall were photos of the woman who had just vaporized my savings. Upstairs, a video game blipped faintly. Noah. I leaned on the banister. Every word I'd have to say to that boy felt like breaking glass with my bare hands. If your stomach flipped when she said, I deserve this, tap subscribe. People need karma stories like this, stories that call selfishness by its name. Hit like if you've ever had to be the grown-up in a conversation you didn't ask for. Stay with me. The next 5 minutes change everything. I sat on the bench where I taught her to ride a bike and realized I might have taught her something worse, that my love would always pick up the tab. I stood before the fireplace and lifted a frame, Leela's wedding day. She had eyes that could sell you on a future. 2 years later, she showed up at my door with a black eye and a shaking toddler. Colin got angry, she'd whispered, like anger ever walked without legs. I carried her bags in and told Noah the couch was a castle. I paid the lawyer, the deposit, the grocery bill. It felt like love. It felt like duty. It also felt like a pattern I kept tracing. I'd prided myself on being the man people could call. That strength turned into a soft corner that people leaned into until it bent. January had been the first red siren. Pot roast Sunday, Chiefs game humming low. Leela walked in with a stranger who had prison ink vines crawling above his collar. "Dad, this is Dax," she said, giddy like prom night. He shook my hand, eyes sweeping the room the way a hawk looks at a rabbit. "Solid place," he said. "Quiet. Safe neighborhood." He asked pointed questions between bites. How long had I worked at the plant? What did retirement look like for auto guys these days? Did I own the house free and clear? Did Leela have access to my accounts? After they left, I stood at my sink and told myself I was biased, that a man can have a past and still rise, that my daughter deserved a shot at happy. 2 mornings later, Sergeant Ben Alvarez from KCPD knocked on my door with an extra cinnamon roll and a face that had seen too much. He'd watch Chiefs games in my living room. He'd come by after night shifts for coffee that burned through winter. "Frank," he said, "that motorcycle your guest drove? Plates came up to a Dax Mercer. You should know. Armed robbery out in Jackson County. Fraud. Assault. He's not a second chance guy. He's a predator." He held my gaze. "Move your money. Change passwords. Keep him away from your family." I nodded. I meant to do all of that. Then Sunday rolled into Monday, rolled into a long stretch of me pretending the unease was just old man worry.
Now my accounts were empty. Now my daughter was gone with the exact man Ben warned me about. And upstairs, Noah was about to leave his room and walk into a world that wasn't what he went to sleep in. I brewed coffee, because when you don't know what to do, you make something warm. I set 2 mugs on the table and practiced words that didn't sound right no matter how I spun them. "Noah, we need to talk. Buddy, there've been some changes." A familiar squeak sounded above me. Noah's desk chair. He was closing a game, the click-click of keys methodical like him. My heart hammered. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, hand on the railing my grandfather sanded when Truman was president. "Noah," I called, voice steady only because it had to be. "Come down for a minute, pal." "Be right there," he said. You could tell a lot by a kid's voice. He sounded like any other Tuesday. This wasn't any other Tuesday. He appeared at the top of the stairs, tall for 15, hair too long by school rules, eyes that always watched first. He hit the last step, saw my face, and froze. "Grandpa," he said quietly, "I already know." Everything in me leaned forward, bracing for impact. If you've ever realized the kid in the room just grew up on you, hit subscribe. These USA drama moments teach us more about love and betrayal than any lecture. Smash like if your heart's in your throat. It gets deeper. Keep going. I opened my mouth to break his heart, and my 15-year-old saved mine instead. "I heard them," Noah said, settling onto the couch like he'd been waiting for this. "Last night, around midnight." He reached into his backpack and pulled out a manila folder, crisp edges lined with tabs. "Mom and Dax didn't know I was getting water. Their door was cracked." He laid it all out like a detective in a TV show, except this was Liberty, Missouri, not New York, and this was my grandson, not an actor. The first page was a printed mugshot, Dax Mercer, in black letters, the kind of stare that makes your shoulders coil. "He's wanted for that quick-trip robbery off I-70, Noah said. "I found the bulletin on the Kansas City Police Department website. There's a reward." His notes were neat. Dates, case numbers, cross-references from news clippings and public records. He'd circled an address in red, 3106 Linwood Boulevard, apartment 2B. "That's where they were heading," he said. "I heard Mom say it." "How did you remember?" I asked, stunned and scared and proud all at once. "I wrote it down," he said,
like it was obvious. Then I verified it on Google Street View, and then He hesitated just long enough for me to catch up. I called the KCPD tip line before school, gave the agent the address, Dax's car, silver Impala, Missouri plates, dented left fender, and told them they were leaving this morning. I gave them everything. "You called the police?" I whispered. He nodded. 9:45 a.m. I wrote the confirmation number here. He slid a sheet with numbers across the table. I needed to make sure someone did something, Grandpa. I lowered myself into the armchair like a man who just learned God still does miracles in small-town living rooms. "Why didn't you tell me yesterday?"
I knew you'd try to stop Mom. His eyes held the kind of fierce loyalty that doesn't bloom in kids by accident. You always try to fix it, but if she stayed, she'd just keep hurting you. The truth landed like a quiet, heavy brick. He wasn't wrong. I would have bargained with my dignity to keep the family under one roof, and she would have used that bargain to build a staircase to her next mess. Noah kept going because he'd worked it all the way through. I didn't tell you this morning either because I didn't know if the police would act fast. I didn't want to give you hope and then crush it. He had carried an adult-sized concern in his boy-sized chest all day because he wanted to protect me. Me! Before I could answer, my phone rang. Unknown number, hard chime in the quiet house. Noah's eyes flicked to it. He reached out and put a hand on my sleeve. "Don't answer yet," he said gently. "There's something else you need to see." If you've ever felt your world tilt and then right itself in the same breath, you know the shaking that followed as he stood, nodding toward the hallway. "Come on," I said, pulse thudding. "I'll show you something too." If this Kid Saves Grandparent twist gave you chills, subscribe. More people need deep emotional storytelling like this, real USA stories about courage. Tap like if you're rooting for Noah.
Money isn't safety until it sits in a place no one knows exists. I led Noah to my bedroom and knelt by the old dresser. I reached under the bottom drawer and pulled free a flat, fireproof box. My grandfather survived breadlines and layoffs in the winter of '42. "Never keep all your eggs in one basket," he'd say. I'd listened, quietly. I popped the lock and lifted the lid. Inside were neat stacks of 20s, 50s, a few hundreds. I'd been tucking a little away every month for 2 years, not because I expected betrayal, just because men who've been punched by life don't leave their guard down near their jaw. "How much?" Noah asked, almost afraid to breathe. "Let's find out." We counted together, palms sweating, laughter shaking out in little bursts, because relief can look like joy when you're still scared. 3,400, I said. Little less than I wish, more than I feared. Noah exhaled like a pressure gauge opening. "We're okay? We're okay enough," I said. "Enough to pay the mortgage, keep the lights on, fill the fridge. Enough to make decisions slowly." For the first time since the ATM, food sounded like food again. "Chess?" Noah said, a half grin peeking out like a kid again. "Chess," I said. We went downstairs. He set the wooden board on the coffee table, knights and rooks falling into their places like they belonged to this house, like we did. The phone rang again, shrill and demanding. Noah glanced at me. "It might be her," he said. I picked up, the cord dragging across the table like a fuse. "Hello?" "How could you?" Lila screamed. "They took Dax. They took everything. The police, how did they know where we were?" Her voice cracked open. Not pain, rage. "Did you call them?"
Noah looked at me, fear showing up around the edges. He had done the brave thing. I had to do mine. "Yes," I said. My voice surprised me with how steady it was. I did. "You turned on your own daughter," she hissed. "You destroyed my future." "I protected our family," I said. Silence. Breathing. Then, "I need money. You're going to send it." "No." "Don't say no to me," she said, the little girl demand grown large and sharp. "I'm stranded. I'm hungry. I need to get home." "You're an adult, Lila. Adults live with their choices." "I'll never forgive you," she spat. "This isn't over." I looked across the room at my grandson, who had protected me better than I ever protected myself. I loaded the phone and spoke quietly. "I love you, Lila, but I won't help you hurt us." Click. Dead air. Noah's hand landed on my shoulder. We didn't say anything. We didn't need to. We were two people who had just decided what kind of men we are. If that no felt like justice, subscribe. Don't keep scrolling. Stories like this USA drama are how we heal and set boundaries. Smash like if that phone slam felt like karma. Drop a comment if you've ever had to say no to someone you love. When chaos leaves, the silence feels like a miracle. May rolled in soft over Liberty. The Bradford pairs finished their show and let the sidewalks go green again. Noah finished sophomore year with grades that would have made his mother clap once upon a very long time ago. We fell into a rhythm that felt earned. Morning eggs and toast, evening chess and bad jokes, Saturday fixes around the house. He picked up a mower and a list of neighbors, a summer job built on grass clippings and handshakes. People paid in cash and lemonade. We weren't rich, but we were okay. My union pension covered the bones of life, and that $3,400 made a bridge that held while we built a new road. We talked honest, about budgets, about wants versus needs, about how love looks like showing up, not showing out. Every Thursday, Sergeant Alvarez stopped by for coffee that could double as motor oil. He gave me pieces of the official story, piece enough. "We got Dax," he said one afternoon, sleeves rolled up, summer finding its teeth. "Caught him walking into that Linwood apartment, just like the tip line said. He's facing time for the quick trip robbery and a stack of other foolish." He sipped and set the mug down. "We found most of your cash in a backpack. It's evidence for now, but the DA's talking restitution down the line." And Leela? The name pressed splinters into my throat. He looked away, the way good men do before they tell you something you don't want. "She ran. We've got a warrant for unrelated fraud tied to Dax's schemes. Nothing violent. She'll surface when the money runs out." I nodded. People always talk about justice like a gavel. It's slower, a drip, not a hammer. We rebuilt small. We rebuilt honest. Noah and I went to the Liberty Arts Festival and ate corn nugs like kids. We fixed the broken step on the front porch and painted it red because he said a bold color felt right. At night, we'd sit on the steps with soda bottles sweating in our hands and watch the lightning bugs start their show. The quiet wasn't empty anymore. It was full, with gratitude, with breath, with the clean ache that comes when your house remembers it's a home. I didn't block Lila's number. She didn't call. At the end of June, heat hanging off the fields like a curtain, somebody knocked on the front door. Hard. Not neighbor hard, not delivery hard. Knock like the past has knuckles. I stepped to the window and angled the curtain. The world tilted again. Lila stood on my porch. Thinner, eyes rimmed with miles, a single duffel sagging at her sneakers. For a second, I saw the little girl who would rock on my boots at church and hum along to the hymns. Then the picture shifted and she was the woman who emptied my account in one morning and called it self-care. "Dad?" she said through the door. "I know you're there."
Noah moved quietly to my side. He didn't have to. I put my hand on the new deadbolt we'd installed. Boundaries aren't about keeping people out. They're about letting the right things in. I turned the lock. If your heart jumped when she knocked, subscribe. Don't click away. These karma stories aren't just entertainment. They're a map for anyone living through love and betrayal. Hit like if you felt that knock in your bones. Comment if you'd open the door. Or not.
She asked for one night on the couch. My soul answered with 20 years of no. I opened the door, but kept my foot braced. Lila looked past me, eyes skimming the living room, landing on the chessboard like it offended her somehow. Noah stood a step behind me, quiet as a breath. "Hi, Mom," he said finally. No warmth, no hate, just truth. Distance. Lila swallowed. "Hey, baby." Then to me, softer, practiced. "Can I come in?" "Porch is fine for now," I said. I stepped out and pulled the door to, close enough to hear Noah behind it, safe enough to speak. Her jaw tightened. "I get it," she said. "I deserve that." She pulled the duffel strap higher, like it was a prop that might earn pity. "They took everything," she said. "Dax is gone. I got nothing. I need help." I remembered the phone call. How help sounded like hush. I'd learned the difference. "I'll help if you're ready for different, not more of the same." "I need a place to sleep. Just one night." "One night used to become months," I said gently, "and then money, and then lies." I took a breath and spoke the plan I'd been carrying like a folded map in my pocket. "If you want to come back into our lives, here's what it looks like. You meet with Surgeon Alvarez and tell the truth. You cut all contact with Dax. You sign a paper giving me temporary guardianship of Noah with no strings. You get a job, any job. You go to counseling, and you start restitution, even if it's $20 a month. That's the front door." Her eyes flashed. "You want me to crawl. I want you to stand, but you can't do it on my back anymore." Tears welled, angry and hot. "I am your child." "You're my adult child," I said. "And he's a child." I nodded toward the door. "I'll put him first every time." She looked at the sky, like God might drop a different father on our porch. "So that's it? I'm homeless and you're offering rules?" "I'm offering a room at the Sunrise Inn for 2 nights, I said. "I'll pay for it. I'll bring food. Tomorrow at 9, we go to the station together to talk to Alvarez. Then we sit with Pastor Reed or a counselor. Your choice. We start today right. Well, we don't start at all." "I can't believe you," she said, voice cracking. "You're choosing a stranger over me." "I'm choosing your son," I said. We stood in the Missouri heat, the air thick with cicadas and standoff. For a heartbeat, I thought she might say yes. Then she exhaled, long and bitter. "Keep your charity," she snapped. "I'll figure it out." She stepped off the porch and onto the sidewalk, duffel bouncing. She didn't look back. I watched her until she was a blur at the end of our block. I went inside. Noah sat on the bottom stair, fists pressed to his knees. He wasn't crying, but his knuckles were white. I sat beside him, and we stared at the closed door together. "I heard," he said. "Thank you." "I'd thank you for saving my life if we were keeping score," I said. We weren't. I pulled out my wallet and tucked a motel key into it. If she called, I'd meet her there. If she didn't, well, some stories don't turn on our timetable. If that porch scene put a lump in your throat, subscribe. Love doesn't always look like yes. Sometimes the bravest USA drama is a father standing on a small porch saying not until it's right. Hit like if you believe in boundaries. Comment, would you have let her in?
Some doors open with a key. Some open with a promise you finally mean. The next morning, there was no call. Not the morning after either. A week later, an envelope arrived. No return address. Liberty postmark. Inside was a single page. "Dad," it began, "I don't know how to be the person you want. I don't know how to be any person right now. I'm angry at you. I'm more angry at me. I'm at Sunrise Inn. If your offer's still good, 9 a.m. At 8:55, Noah and I pulled into a parking spot that faced the lobby. Leela sat inside with a coffee she wasn't drinking. She looked up, expecting judgment, maybe a lecture. I gave her a nod and held the door. At the station, Alvarez didn't gloat. He set a recorder on the desk and asked simple questions. Leela answered them. Not perfectly, not clean, but truth happened in that room. She signed a paper, temporary guardianship to me, and her hands shook in a way I hoped meant she knew what she was doing mattered. Pastor Reed didn't fix us. He did hand us tissues and a sentence I wrote down and kept on the refrigerator. Love without boundaries is just enablement in a costume. July baked liberty into a postcard. Noah and I bought a cheap grill and burned the first pack of hot dogs anyway. We adopted a rescue dog from the shelter, a clumsy brown mutt Noah named Fender, because our life had dents, and we decided to keep going. The legal grind ground on. Dax pled, took a deal, went to prison. Leela took a deal too. Probation, counseling, restitution. The first time she handed me $25, she couldn't look at me. I took it gently and put it in a jar we labeled repair. It sat on the mantel next to a photo of Noah at his last chess tournament. Grin crooked, metal shining. We set guardrails wider than our driveway. Leela could visit on Sundays for an hour in the living room, with me there. She had to be sober, early, honest about her week. The first month she made it twice, the second 3 times. Once in August she called from the parking lot and said, "I shouldn't come in today." I said, "That's courage." I met her on the steps and we talked in the shade. When school started, Noah tried varsity chess and made it. The coach told me after practice, he sees the board 3 moves ahead and he keeps his cool when he's cornered. I smiled because I know exactly where he learned that. We never got every dollar back. We got enough, and what we didn't get in money, we got in something better. We got clarity. We got peace. We got a story that hurts to tell and heals to hear. A revenge story, yes, but not the kind with broken windows and more broken hearts. Ours was the slow, steady kind, the kind where karma tapped on a Linwood door and where a small-town porch became a courtroom and a promise. Sometimes, Lila shows up early on Sundays now and helps me cut fruit. Sometimes she and Noah talk about homework and how the barbecue place by the highway changed their sauce, and for 10 minutes, Normal walks through the room and sits. I don't know how our story ends. I know how this chapter ends. With a quiet house that feels safe, a boy who became a young man the right way, a daughter who was learning the hard way, and an old Ford in the driveway that starts every time because I took care of it. I lock the door at night now, not because I'm scared, but because I learned the difference between an open house and an open heart. One needs a key, the other needs a boundary. If you're listening to this and you're where I was, zeroed out, heart cracked open, hear me. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to protect the kid in your care, even when the person at the door is the one you raised. You're allowed to ask for truth in exchange for trust. And when karma finally knocks, you're allowed to answer with courage. If this deep emotional story gave you a way forward, subscribe. Don't leave without it. Stories like this, love and betrayal, healing and redemption, are how we remember what being human means. Hit like if you felt that soft ending land in your chest. Share it with someone who needs the reminder that boundaries are a kind of love too.